Hi there, welcome. First of all, I want to start off by saying thank you for being interested enough to watch my video. This is kind of a weird situation for me, so I'm just going to address that right out of the gate, and hopefully it will be less weird for me. The reason I say it's weird is because I have always focused on writing about and interviewing others. So when it came to focusing really on my story and myself, I just kind of hit a wall, and I'm sure a lot of you can identify with that, but me especially. I knew it was time to formally come out, do an interview with myself so you guys know who I am and what I'm all about, and obviously share it with you. So first of all, the cover column, you at this point probably know what that is. It's a bi-weekly focus that I'm doing on women in ranching, agriculture, rodeo, various things. And 2 weeks ago, which I said bi-weekly, I am going to introduce, or I did an introduction as to what it is. And today I thought to myself, well, I've got to focus on somebody today. And so when I was planning this out, I thought, what a great opportunity for me to come to you and tell you a little bit about myself. And then every other week, I have a growing list of women that I am going to feature. And I'm super excited about that. Number one, these women are so amazing and they totally deserve to have their stories known. Number two, the focus won't be on me. So let me dive right in, you guys, and I even made notes for myself because it's really easy to get off track for myself. I sometimes go down rabbit holes when I speak, and I do quite a few videos for my home-based business. But as far as doing vlogs, which something new for me too, I do a lot of live videos also on my fan page, but I have not really done a vlog. So you're going to see more video clips and things coming forward, which I'm super excited about. But let me go ahead and dive in. My name is Cheyenne Glade Wilson, and I am a fifth-generation cattle rancher. I was born and raised in Montana, and a little town called Terry, Montana. It's just east of Miles City, Montana, and then west of Glendive. So I basically didn't grow up in a town because, as you know, cattle ranchers, we live out in the middle of nowhere for the most part, and that is true for me. I grew up 28 miles northwest of Terry, between Little Sheep Mountain and Big Sheep Mountain. So if you care to look it up on a map, that's exactly where I grew up. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I will say Miles City because that's very renowned. If you're a Lonesome Dove fan, you know that that's where Gus and his life ended and all that. So that's where I grew up. I grew up with my entire family being involved in ranching on both sides. My dad actually was born and raised in South Dakota, which is where I live now. And my mom obviously was born and raised on the place that I was born and raised on, which was pretty cool to think about it. And 5 generations, yes, that is very true. My actual, I guess I'll call them ancestors, really started out in the sheep business. So it's been really interesting learning more about them. As I get older, I kind of have really wanted to delve into that a bit more, which maybe you identify with that. Kind of not focusing on the past, but really focusing on the history of who I am, where I come from. Did it all make sense? So basically, that's that part of the story. My grandfather had taken on that area in Montana that I grew up in, and eventually he passed away in 1985, and then my folks ended up purchasing the ranch from my grandmother, and that's basically how that happened. But I will tell you guys this. When I was a child, I grew up working. We played, of course, but ranches really are something where everyone chips in, and it doesn't, yes, of course, when you're an infant, you're not doing much, but I tell people, yes, I was a cowgirl at a very young age, and I actually did ride horses before I could walk in 2 ways. One, my mother was a barrel racer. She trained her own horses. She actually went on to compete at the 1976 National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City, where it was held at that time. So she was training horses. She was running barrels. I was in her belly. But aside from that, when I was little, I was put on the back of a horse, and I instantly fell in love with that. There's just something about horses that I get chills even talking about it. They are just in my heart, and they always will be. They always have been. And I love that my son is feeling that too. There's just something about it. And truly all animals, but especially horses. So when I was young, I started rodeoing. I think I was 3 years old in all truth. That's when you walk around the barrels and you do all that stuff. But youth rodeo was a big thing for myself and my brother. My brother Wyatt, he's 2.5 years younger than I am. Just the two of us in the family. But we really learned a lot about working on the ranch and learned a lot rodeoing. We got to meet some amazing people. We also got to learn how to rely on our horse, also how to rely on ourselves, how to set goals, how to practice for things, and how to really execute when that run would really matter in the arena, like a state championship and things like that. So youth rodeo, basically, I ran barrels, I learned how to tie goats, I was a breakaway roper. I am a left-hander, so that was great for breakaway roping. Not so great for goat tying, team roping, things like that, but I learned how to tie goats right-handed. So a lot of people will ask me now, do you really heel left-handed? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Primarily, I'm a lefty. I can head right-handed. I wouldn't want to compete against my left hand versus my right hand, but I can hold my own. So it's just something about being versatile and learning that truly daily existence is about what you do every single day to better yourself. So as ranchers, there are no weekends where we don't do anything. There are no vacations where you just walk away and you know it'll be there when you get back. It's about survival, and it's about caring for your animals, because your animals are basically your livelihood. And so it is all interconnected that way. So I was really glad, and I feel very fortunate that I was raised that way. So youth rodeo basically rolled into high school rodeo. I mentioned those state championships. I actually did go on to win 3 different state championships in high school in Montana. I won the breakaway roping, the goat tying, and the pole bending. So that was really amazing. And basically what all of that stemmed together to create was a full ride rodeo scholarship to Dawson Community College in Glendive. So I went to college, was on the rodeo team, but I'm going to be first up to say I was not focused on an education, unfortunately. It just wasn't my time, let's just say that. So I went to college, was there for about 1.5 years, and then ended up leaving there without a degree. Looking back, was it the greatest thing I ever did? No, but you know, probably at your stage of life, you can look back and go, gosh, I wish I would have done things differently. And that's where maybe we come in as parents, is being able to help our children learn from our own mistakes. Although I think my parents tried to help me learn from their mistakes, and I wasn't all about learning. If my mom and dad see this, they will definitely, oh yeah, she's being honest with you. So that's basically what happened, guys. And then I went on to my work life. And honestly, for me, I was a different kind of a kid. You know, I've always loved where I was born and raised, but I always felt like the grass was greener on the other side, or that I had to go see it for myself and experience these things. So I actually left from college and started going to work. In fact, I had my first actual job when I was 16 years old. I worked for the Soil Conservation Service for 2 summers. It was a program that they had with high school students back then. And that kind of set the foundation, but I wanted to discover other things in the world. So I actually moved to quite a few big cities over a 10-year span. I actually got involved with skincare and makeup. So believe it or not, I was a makeup artist for on and off 6 years. I was in the retail business. I became a manager. I worked my way up. And that was one of the things I think from my childhood and being born and raised on a working cattle ranch, is that it was all about work. It was not about sitting back and letting others do everything. And so that's really, I feel I attribute a lot of that to the successes that I've had. But in the end, eventually I longed for the ranch. I longed to rodeo again. I longed to feel that partnership with horses, and living in cities, you can't do that. So just to kind of briefly tell you where I lived, I actually lived in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. I was there for about 10 months, and then I eventually went to Minneapolis and was there for 1 year. I lived in the Denver area, several different places there for over 3 years, not quite 4. But every single time, you guys, I will tell you, I ended up back home, back in Montana. And it's funny how that happens, but basically after I was done in Colorado, it was the late fall, early winter of 2004, and I ended up moving back to Miles City. And there's other things to tell you about my life, but honestly, I kind of want to keep it up here for right now. There's a lot of things that I plan to share in the future, my actual true story and kind of what led me to be who I am. But basically I ended up back in Miles City, and if you guys know the Bison Bar in Miles City, Montana, and maybe you've heard of the world famous bucking horse sale, that is a staple there on Main Street. And I have known the folks who've owned that my entire life. And so when I was younger, I would help out there. You know, being a bartender, I will tell you, I'm not much of a drinker at all. In fact, I don't even drink now. It doesn't serve me well. Not that I'm against it, not at all. But being a bartender was a great way for me to have a social existence. I enjoyed the work, and I actually made really good money doing it. And so I would bartend on and off. When I moved home in 2004, I ended up going to work at the Bison Bar. And it really started off as a part-time day thing. Well, then it ended up into almost a full-time night thing. And so I was working a lot. And basically that is how I met my husband. And I tell people I was there to work, he was there to play. It was New Year's Eve, 2004, I guess. It was rolling into 2005. And he made a comment to me. And if you guys read my blog, you probably have stumbled upon my little story about that. But long story short, we didn't date. We didn't date for a couple of months. And then eventually he came back in. He was working on a ranch, invited me to supper, and that's it. We've been together ever since. And so it was definitely meant to be. I will tell you this, my husband is 8.5 years younger than I am. So I really didn't plan that, you guys, and it's funny looking back on how things happen, right? Because if I would have met him earlier in my life, the age difference would have been such that I never even would have even gone that direction. But when you get into your 30s, and obviously now I'm 45, so I'm later in life, there isn't that big of an age gap at all. And Shane, my husband, was raised pretty much by his grandparents, so I call him an old soul. You know, he really wasn't a young person when I met him. He wasn't really involved in a lot of the things the younger people do. He was really about working, and he had an amazing work ethic. So I just fell head over heels in love with him, and him with me. And that's really what happened. So the spring of '05, my folks needed some help down here on their place here on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And as luck would have it, or fate, or whatever you want to call it, we ended up moving down here and going to work for them, which basically worked into my dad helping us get started in the ranching business. What I will tell you guys is ranching is not cheap. It takes a lot of land, which means it takes a lot of money. And being part Indian, which, you know, you guys, I am called the Native Cowgirl. That's my alias. I am literally the Native Cowgirl. I'm an enrolled member of the Ogallala Lakota Sioux tribe here at Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And being able to have the opportunity to ranch here was something I really didn't ever see for myself, but it was the greatest opportunity at the moment. It really was. So we grabbed hold with both hands. My parents never gave us anything, but they allowed us an opportunity to work for something. And that's been my whole life, guys. You know, nobody's ever handed me anything. I've had to work for everything that I've had. And the truth is, I wouldn't want it any other way. And we're trying to instill that in our son as well, teaching him that there's a lot of great things to be had in this life, but nobody's going to just come and hand it to you. So I like to say we have a really good work ethic. And ranchers, if you guys know other ranchers, you know they do, because they wouldn't be successful if they didn't. Along with good cattle prices, good weather, a good calf crop, all of those things combined together is really what helps. So speaking of our son, long story short, I was 35 when he was born, and I was told for years that I could not have children. And not just, well, you can't have kids. It was like we had gone down that road of specialists and asking and trying to figure out if the whole fertility route was right for us. And we decided it wasn't. We decided that if we were to be blessed with a child, that would be wonderful. But if we weren't, we were going to focus on our nephews at the time. And then later now we have a niece. But we just figured that what was meant to be was meant to be. And that was that. So luckily, we were truly blessed, and he is my miracle baby. But truly, I never knew what life was like until I became a mom. Like, well, I knew what life was like, but you know what I mean? Like, it added so much more meaning and so much more everything. It just, that's my story, and that's the honest truth. A lot of the mistakes and things that I made when I was younger, I look back now and I'm like, you know, I don't want the opportunity to go back and redo it. I choose to learn from all of those things and hopefully pass on what I've learned to my son. And God willing, he'll want to listen to me, you know, or my husband. We've all made mistakes, but being able to learn from those and then pass down that knowledge to our children, I think that's a great asset. Again, they're going to go on, they're going to make their own mistakes, and that's what I did, surely, but it's all meant to be. That's the way I look at it. So that was truly the greatest blessing of my life, up to that point. And then came another era, you guys. I was 5 years old when I heard about a product that my friend was sharing on Facebook. And I won't delve too much into that, but I will tell you that this product that I take literally changed everything about my life. Energy, sleep, attitude, mental clarity, feeling amazing, being able to jump out of bed in the morning without hurting, being able to ride and without having to gingerly get off my horse at night, or at the end of the day. So that product basically rolled into me getting involved in a home-based business. And I will tell you guys, I've had other businesses before in the past, and I didn't have success much, because at the end of the line of it all, it's very expensive to own your own business. And living here in the middle of nowhere, it was hard for me to actually get somewhere physically to surround myself with other people. So I'm just here really to encourage any of you watching this that there are opportunities out there that, as a ranching woman or man, or maybe you live in town, there are opportunities out there that you may not even understand what they are yet. All I ask is that you not close yourself off to those, because you don't know what could happen. And I will tell you that this home-based business that found me turned into something that I never in a million years would have imagined would be possible for someone like me, someone of my age, someone out here in the middle of nowhere. And it absolutely has been so amazing. So just wanted to touch on that. And then with those opportunities came a way for me to earn an income out here in the middle of nowhere, which basically became such that we've been able to purchase where Shane grew up from his grandparents, their land. That is our Montana property. And it also has rolled into us being able to see to fruition our dreams of owning, breeding, raising, selling half-draft bred horses. What is a half draft? Well, our stud is full-blooded registered Percheron. Our mares are AQHA mares, and we are combining the two breeds to create what we call a super horse. Now, there might be some of you out there who love reining and cutting and barrel racing and all the other disciplines. Maybe you're a jumper, maybe you do shows. I don't know what that looks like for you. But in our ranch experience, and with my husband being a bigger guy, he is 6'2", 285. It's been difficult with smaller horses to sometimes go all day, get the job done. A lot of times we rope critters out in the pasture, and to be able to pull a critter onto a trailer, it's difficult with a smaller horse. So he, long ago, fell in love with half-draft breed horses. Basically, that's what we call them. There's different names for them too. We also have quarter draft horses. Sometimes people call quarter drafts because they're half quarter horse and half draft. Some people call that actually quarter draft with AQHA or other breeding. So there's different wordings, but that's why we call it half draft. You can find information on our Facebook page, Lazy 69 Ranch. That's all spelled out. Lazy 69, that's a fun story. That is my mom and dad's brand when they started in this business. It has now been handed down to us, and it's something that I hold very dear. It means more to me than perhaps any heirloom that I could have, the fact that we were able to have that. So we have that brand in South Dakota and Montana, so we can move back and forth with horses and such. Like, we have our studs. So we have 3 studs now, 2 Percheron studs. We have Mac. We also have Tonka, who is a full-blooded son if you want to call it. He's another registered Percheron, but he is Mac's son. And then we have a Gypsy Vanner registered stud as well. So I'm kind of all about flash, and I love color. I love hair. I love feather on horses. So this is going to be a whole new venture for us, you guys, this summer. But when we turn out our studs this year. But really, as we see our colts hitting the ground this spring 2019, it's going to be extremely exciting for us. So we have our mare herd in Montana, and then we cattle ranch down here in South Dakota. So eventually, I'll be honest, our goal is to move back to Montana, because I like to tell people home is where the heart is, right? Well, when you're a Montana native, that's what Shane and I are. That's just where our heart belongs. And so we do intend and plan to move up there full time eventually. We just don't really know when that is yet, because it takes a lot to move a ranch. So we'll see. Stay tuned for more information on that. Also, feel free to ask any questions you have. We will be selling our colts that are born this year. We don't know how many mares are bred, because we kind of do the old style of breeding. We put the mare out with the stud out with the mares for 2 months. We pull him. He's here being loved on and fed every day, and we see what was bred. We don't ultrasound. We don't preg check. We don't do any of that. We're just going to see how this goes. That's how my grandfather did it for years. That's how my parents did it for years. So we're learning as we go, and we're just super excited about what the future holds for that, and to see what these horses turn into. Super awesome for ranch work. We compete in a lot of ranch rodeos, so you guys probably know that from reading. I am huge into women's ranch rodeos. We also have some other things that we love to do. We love to rope. We love to do all that kind of stuff. So to have an all-around horse that's really going to work for that, that's really where we're excited. So stay tuned. And then the last thing I really wanted to focus on was my writing and my blog. So I'm not sure how you found out about me. Maybe you know me personally or my family. Maybe you stumbled upon my Facebook page. Maybe you saw something I wrote in one of the publications that I'm published in. So I will tell you guys, share a fun with you, a funny. When I was 12 years old, there was a traveling Writers Guild, if you will, that would travel through Montana to various schools. And we just so happened that they chose Terry's middle school to stop at, and I actually was chosen to have my poem featured in this book, along with lots of other children in Montana. So this is the book. It's entitled Waiting for the Moment to Explode, and I'm sure it's out of print, you guys. It was published serving 1982 and 1983. And if you look at that, you guys, I say that I became a published poet at 12, but looking at the math there, this actually was published in 83, so I was 10 years old. So it's funny how the mind plays tricks on you, right? So I'm really glad I looked this up, but I'm going to read to you my very first poem. Now I want to give you a little back history on this. So my grandfather gave my cousin and I each a colt, and my colt's name was Bingo, and unfortunately he met a very tragic ending, but that's what this poem was about. And something about me, you guys, I love sharing positivity and inspiration now as an adult, but when I was young growing up, things that really came to me and resonated with me were very emotional topics. I think that kind of worried some people in my past, my teachers in particular, just with some of the words that I was writing. But I have a whole book of poems that have never been seen by anybody else. And so who knows, maybe I'll reveal those as I go along. But I am going to read this poem to you. So bear with me. The first time I really thought about death is when my horse Bingo died. I wanted to know why it had to be him. He was 5 years old. I wanted to know why. I was mad at the world. I didn't want to talk or eat. I wanted to ride him, but he was dead. I couldn't go to sleep, and I cried all night. All I wanted was Bingo. The next morning was Christmas. I couldn't think of anything else but Bingo lying on the road with 2 feet in the air. Cheyenne Glade, Terry Middle School, Terry. Wow, even just reading that, I can remember the emotion that I wrote that poem under, whatever. It was hard because that happened, and then my grandfather later passed away. So the horse that he had given me was gone, you know? And so it's hard for children to identify with emotions and especially death, but I know as a ranch child, I grew up experiencing that from a young age. You know, as we know, we have animals born during calving season, during foaling season, and not all of them make it. And so at a young age, we have to learn to identify with that and learn how to cope with that. And so I think writing has always been an outlet for me, and that's where it all began, you guys. I began with poetry. And again, I do have a whole booklet of poems that really started with that first poem. And then I liked it and I felt a release maybe of emotions, and I was able to just keep writing. And so through my age, I guess, there were periods of time where I didn't write at all. Then there were periods of time where I would come back and I would write poems. I remember writing a poem about my grandmother that I gave her, and she kept it framed on her bedside table until she passed away, and now I have that. And it's a real treasure for me. So my writing definitely means more to me than just words on paper. I put a lot of thought, a lot of effort, and a lot of emotion into the words that I share. So I hope that you can feel that when you read my work. I'm super excited for all of the opportunities that are coming my way, and I have some really exciting things to share with you guys coming soon about my writing, about my blog. You're going to see a lot more from me coming forward, because I sat down and I thought about it one day, you guys, and social media is an amazing tool. But what I'm finding through the years is that it seems to me, and this is just my thought, but a lot of people are moving away from ranching and agriculture, and they're being removed from that because the way the world is now, and a lot of people live in cities and maybe they aren't familiar with our way of life. And more than anything, what has taught, I guess what I have gotten from looking back at my ancestors and starting to dig into that, is that as long as we are sharing all the time with people as much as we can, whether it be through videos, writing, books, blogs, whatever it is, that will never be lost for those who want to find it. You know, I know people aren't going to come out and live on a ranch. I get that. But if we can somehow focus on sharing what goes on out here, sharing how full and rich our lives are, and how open and caring we are as people, that positivity and inspiration matters hugely in this world, especially now more than ever. Sharing your faith and your partnership with others, it's so amazing. And we have an amazing opportunity to do that for people now. So if anything, I guess maybe that is my mission statement. I need to sit down and rewrite that. But one thing about here out on the ranch too, you guys, that I really want to focus on, and I did an Instagram post about this the other day, there is no his or hers out here, you guys. It's an all hands on deck. That means everyone from myself to my husband to our son, if we need to get something done for ourselves, it isn't Shane's job, it isn't my job, it isn't my son's job. We're like this. And I will tell you that it has created such a synergy and togetherness that we are stronger now than we've ever been. And our relationship is so full and honest that it's just amazing to me. And I just posted a blog post too about a story when Shane and I were first starting out. It involved me crying over spilled milk. So you'll have to go and read that. But that's really when it began, you guys. And this day and age where relationships are not ending up well, or they're very few and far between of those that last long. And I know more about that than you would even imagine, which I'll share going down the road. But what I've learned is that when you are all hands on deck together, it really cuts out any of the feeling of being left out, or the feeling of ownership, his and hers, or people not wanting to do their full part. Here, that doesn't exist, you guys, and I am so grateful every single day to be in the life that I'm in. And it makes me want to share this with everybody because of how amazing it is. It doesn't mean that financially we're millionaires or billionaires. It doesn't mean that. It means that, in my opinion, there is more to life than money or monetary things. Yes, on a ranch, you've got to make ends meet. And we are extremely rich, but it might not be something that shows at the bank. And I love experiences. I love sharing stories. I love sharing my thoughts and what I've learned out here with all of you. So I'm getting about at a half an hour, and I apologize. This video took a little longer than I thought. But like all things, I feel that it's worth it, you know? So that's what you get to look forward to coming from me, is more writing, more focusing on people out in this lifestyle that are really making things happen for themselves and their families. I'm going to be going to the Art of the Cowgirl event here in a couple of weeks. I can't wait to share what that's all about. I've been asked to start on a really awesome project involving some cowboys and cowgirls, so I cannot wait to share more about that as well. But you guys, life is short. So if there's anything that you yourself watching this right now are holding back from doing, or maybe it's something that people are laughing at, or maybe they don't understand what your goals are, what your intention is, where your heart is, I just ask that you slow down for a minute. You know, the whole be still movement. I believe that that's really, really important, because you have one life to live, just like I do. And if you're not following your true north, what are you following? You know, that's really, I guess, the message that I like to share with everyone, is that there are so many amazing things in this life and in this world that you can experience and you can share with others, but you have to be intentional about it. And you have to be focused on your goals more than anything. You can't let that outside noise come in and change your course of direction. You have to be focused on that north. Follow your arrow, if you will. I say that a lot as well. So anyway, I'm going to end this. So I hope that gave you a little bit about me. Look forward to a written biography, whatever you want to call it, about me. That is going to be hard for me to write, but I will be able to get through it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all of you for following me, my fans, TNC tribe. That's awesome. But there's going to be a lot of fun things coming forth. I just have all kinds of ideas, and there's going to be a fruition of a lot of cool things. So with that, I'm going to say good day to you guys. Thanks so much for taking time to watch this vlog, video, whatever it is. And I appreciate you more than you know. So with that, oh, and also last thing, the cover column, guys, my focus on women in agriculture. If you know anybody that comes to mind when you're hearing me talk, somebody that their story deserves to be told, maybe they've never had their story told, or maybe they don't get on social media and they're not sharing, please reach out to me. You can email me at thenativecowgirl@gmail.com. You can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. Any of those places you can reach out to me. I will be glad to visit with you about your ideas and why this person needs to be focused on. My whole goal, though, is to meet in the flesh with these people, interview them, take some pictures, all kinds of stuff. So that's just a blip. I gotta get off of here. You guys have an amazing day, and thanks again for following me. I really, really appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.